finally.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second faculty seminar of the fall semester. It's my honor to be the host of this week's session. Today, we have a wonderful guest, Dr. Bogdan Carbunar, an associate professor in the Department of Computing and Information Sciences. Dr. Carbunar directs CaSPR Lab, where he focuses on building secure solutions for distributed systems. Dr. Carbunar's current research interests include fraud and abuse detection, mobile authentication, and censorship resistance. He holds a PhD from Purdue University. I personally learned a lot from his research on mobile authentication, actually. So, Dr. Carbunar, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the introduction. And welcome to my talk on the underworld of search rank optimization. I want to give in this talk an overview of one of the projects in my lab. This is not the only project, but it's definitely the oldest project. So also I have to apologize for the problems that we had with sharing in Zoom. Hopefully AT&T, I will not have also to apologize for AT&T. And we are several people and a cat using Zoom at the same time. So hopefully everything will be good. I have 45 slides, so hopefully by 3 o'clock we'll be done. So this talk will focus on peer opinion systems, which are services provided by major providers such as Google, for example, Google Play, Google Maps, also Apple App Store, Amazon, Yelp. As we all use these services, essentially they encourage product developers to upload their products, host them, advertise and sell them on the site. And on the other hand, users can search for products of interest. They can view, buy, install these products. And after that, they are encouraged to review or rate their products. So product developers and in general, the community has figured out that if a product has more positive reviews, it will show up higher in a search when you're searching for a certain product. And if they show up higher, then they will receive more purchases, more installs, they will bring more money. And so malicious product developers have figured out ways to shortcut this process by recruiting and hiring specialized workers to perform fake purchases, fake installs, and then posting fake reviews for these products. So, so in early work, when we started 8 years ago or 9 years ago, work on this project, we wanted to understand. We were kind of fascinated about this type of behaviors, and we wanted to understand how they take place. So we started in kind of a humble way. We started with Yelp, and we created fake venues in Yelp. We have here an example, Bob's Tacos. This was in Miami. So we created such venues all over the country, and then we recruited specialized workers from Amazon Mechanical Turks to write reviews for these venues. So since these venues don't really exist, these reviews were fake. And you can see here some examples of these reviews. They actually look pretty authentic. So we received more than 90 fake reviews, and we only paid between 25 cents to $1.5 per review. So this was the first attempt at studying these behaviors. Second attempt.
Bogdan, I have a stupid quick question. What did you ask those people to do?
We asked them to post a review for this venue.
Positive or negative or any?
No, we didn't tell them. We just asked them to write a review.
Okay. And whether they're positive or negative, does it impact?
They mostly posted positive reviews. So yeah, they assume that we want to promote these venues. Okay. Even though we did not ask them to do this.
Okay, and with the relationship with the previous one, does it mean that whether they're positive or negative doesn't matter? It's just the number of reviews and of installs and whatnot that matters, or?
Well, so actually we wanted to see, also what these workers will do and what will happen in Yelp, whether Yelp will detect these reviews as being fake or not.
Yeah. Okay.
But most of them showed up, and yeah, I guess some of them were filtered, but many stayed. And
Okay.
as you see here, this person, I just realized now, the first reviewer actually even has a check-in at that location. So this venue doesn't actually exist. So yeah.
Fascinating.
So Bogdan, you said that most of the reviews are positive.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
So there is a bias then in this data set.
There is a what?
There is a bias in this data set.
Sure. Yes. So they were biased towards writing positive reviews. Yes.
Okay.
Even though we did not ask them to do this.
I see. Okay.
So kind of the second step, we built this bot that we programmed to behave similar to a regular user in Yelp. So we created a fake account in a city, and then we programmed this bot to log in every day to this account and perform one action, only one action on the account. So for instance, one day the account would log in at a random time in the day, and it would search for a venue that is local to the city where the account is registered, then log out. So actually search for a local venue, then load the page, and then log out. And then the next day, again at a random time, it would log in and it would post a review for this venue. The rating of the review was programmed to be the average rating that the venue has. And the review was supposed to be a summary of the reviews received by this venue from other users. And then it would log out again. And then the next day, again, it would log in, send an invitation to a friend, or send a message to someone else who has reviewed the same venue. And so we programmed this bot to perform this action repeatedly over multiple days. And the plan was that we're going to keep this account active, and we're going to try to build a good reputation for this account. So how do we measure reputation for an account? Well, we decided it's going to be the number of reviews that are not filtered by Yelp. So how many reviews this account posted and how many were not filtered. And so ideally, we wanted to create a good reputation, maybe even become elite Yelpers. And so if we can do this for one account, we can definitely do it for multiple accounts. So the idea was to do this for N accounts, and then once they have a good reputation, we can program them to target our own apps, or sorry, our own venues, and figure out if Yelp will detect this or not. So in order to do this research, we had to apply for IRB, and IRB approval was not a problem. However, they forwarded our request to the lawyers in FIU, who decided to block our research. The reason was that we were breaking the terms of service of Yelp. So just as a side note, a small sub-idea of this research appeared in ACM CCS a couple of years ago. What they were doing is that they were using deep learning to generate fake reviews that would be hard to distinguish by a human that they were fake. But anyway, at that point, we decided that we cannot do this sort of analysis of Yelp anymore. And instead, we turned to studying fake reviews and venues who engage in search rank fraud in Yelp. We developed this system where, I'm sorry for the fonts here. It seems that Google is not really compatible with Microsoft. But anyway, so we looked at relationships between user accounts and venues that they review. And we looked for venues that receive review spikes, particularly positive reviews or negative review spikes. Also for venues that receive conflicting reviews. Also venues that receive a critical mass of fake reviews that impact the average rating of the venue. So from all of these modules, we extracted a set of features, and we use these features to train a classifier. We also use data that we collected from Yelp for this classification. And our classifier was detecting whether a venue is honest or has engaged in search rank fraud. So to evaluate our solution, we collected data from more than 7,000 venues in in several cities in the US, targeting specific types of companies. We also collected all the reviews received by these venues and also all the accounts that reviewed these venues. So as this project started to gain traction, we also received the Best Student Paper Award at SDM. So we were contacted by a journalist at FIU who wanted to do media coverage on this project. And so for completeness, they also contacted Yelp to ask for feedback, and Yelp threatened to sue us if we release the data set. Even though we contacted Yelp many times before, sending them our papers, our results, trying to establish communication with them, they never replied. So at that point, the journalist decided that the best course of action is to drop the media coverage just when things were getting interesting. So at that point, we decided that we have to stop this nonsense with Yelp. And instead, we changed our research to a more friendly platform called Google Play. This is also a peer opinion site where developers are app developers who upload their apps, and Google hosts them, and users can search for apps that have a certain functionality. They can install these apps, and then later they are encouraged to review or rate these apps. And so similar to what we've seen before, there are also malicious developers who engage in what is called black hat app search optimization. But again, they hire specialized workers to perform fake installs and then post fake reviews for their apps. So this is a fairly important problem, and it's periodically covered in the media, who find every once in a while that Google Play is taking down millions of fake reviews, and then thousands of apps engage in these sorts of behaviors, including malware. By the way, malware also needs to become popular in order to infect many devices. So app search optimization is one of the ways they can become popular. Even more, researchers have found that the top 10 Google Play search results for VPN, which is virtual private networks, are dominated by certain apps that have engaged in fraudulent manipulation practices. So essentially, if you're installing any of those top 10 VPN apps, it's unlikely that your privacy will be preserved, and actually your data may be shared with who knows what entities. So at that point, once we started working on this area, we started at the bottom level. We started by a longitudinal study of the Google Play app market. This was published in a conference and journal. So the idea was that we collected data from more than 470,000 apps from Google Play for more than 6 months. So the plot here on the left shows the discovery process of these apps. And so we built a crawler to collect and to process the metadata of these apps. The plot on the right shows the categories of the apps that we collected, and also how many of them were free and how many were paid. Then the next work was on detecting fraud and even malware in Google Play. So kind of as before in Yelp, we used a variety of features we extracted a variety of features from particular apps in Google Play. The idea was that, for instance, we looked at the accounts that reviewed an app, and we looked at whether they have common review behaviors. For instance, if we can find multiple accounts who review the same apps over and over, and maybe even at very similar times. So we also looked at other temporal relationships, like whether they receive reviews in spikes. We also looked for what we called Jekyll and Hyde apps. We came up with this idea that certain apps could start up as benign apps. They would request for few permissions, mostly non-dangerous permissions. But then in time, these apps would start pushing for updates that would request for more permissions and for more dangerous permissions. So as I said, we extracted features from several types of behaviors related to apps, and then we use them to train a classifier to differentiate benign apps from apps that engage in app search optimization, and even malware apps. And in terms of malware apps, we also collected thousands of APKs from Google Play, and we ran them through VirusTotal. And so we found a few hundred apps that were labeled by many antivirus software to be suspicious. So we studied these apps, and we found that three quarters of these apps actually were suspected of having engaged in app search optimization. So the next step, we realized that we can do more than just detect fraud. We could actually even try to de-anonymize fraud. So we wanted to answer two questions. If I give you two accounts that we suspect have participated in app search optimization, can you tell me if these two accounts are controlled by the same person, the same worker, or not? And if I give you a set of accounts that we suspect are controlled by the same worker, can you identify the crowdsourcing account or the maybe Facebook account controlled by the worker who actually controls all of these accounts? So to answer these questions, we used deep learning, and then we extracted features to automatically extract features from a variety of behaviors in Google Play of accounts and of apps. And we built these co-ownership graphs, where essentially every node is an account, and two accounts or two nodes are connected if we suspect that the accounts are controlled by the same person. So we use random walks, deep learning, and we built these classifiers. However, one of the interesting components of this project and relevant to this talk, that we realized at the time that in order to, now that we have a solution that we claim is able to de-anonymize worker accounts, well, how do we know how well it does? And so this is a hard problem. I'm not sure if anyone had a solution for it at the time. So we decided that, well, we could try to use the fraud workers as human oracles. So we designed this essentially three-step process where first of all, we recruit workers to help us. And we ask each worker to reveal at least 10 accounts that they control. And then we use our solutions to find other accounts that we suspect these workers control. And then we designed a questionnaire where we ask the worker to confirm control of these accounts. I'm not sure if animation works. Yes, it works. We show them information from the new accounts, like the profile photo and the name of the account. And we ask them, do you control this account? And they could say yes, no, or they don't remember. And obviously workers could cheat, right? They could claim that they control an account that they actually don't control, or they could say that they don't control an account which they actually control, for whatever reasons. So to address this problem, we created and included in the questionnaire new accounts for which we know the answer. So for instance, the account in the middle, this is a bogus account. So we picked a picture from the internet, we created a fake name, and we asked them if they control this account, and we know that they cannot control that account. We also took photos and names from accounts that they claimed in the first step to control, so we know that they control them. So if a worker answers incorrectly on any of these accounts, we know that they may be trying to cheat us, and we cannot trust the data that they provide. And surprisingly, very few actually cheated. They were very accurate in identifying accounts which they definitely control and those that they definitely do not control. So at this moment that we had this revelation that workers are willing to talk to us and reveal a lot of information. So not only which accounts they control, but also how do they perform the work. And this is where we perform a connection to our initial attempts to study fraud. We were trying to create fraud ourselves. And here it was a lot easier to do it. We can just ask workers to tell us how they do it. And then we looked at a large body of research in this area. There are more than 200 papers on fraud detection on online systems. And they are all based on assumptions about the workers. And assumptions include that workers use their account in a synchronized manner, that they post reviews in bursts, that they are the first to review a product, that their reviews are plagiarized and repeated, and so on. But none of them has actually verified that these assumptions are actually correct. They never talked to any workers to validate their assumptions. Instead, their assumptions were made based on intuition or insights they claim to have from collaborating site providers, or also from small data sets of fraud that they collected. But again, they never talked to app search optimization workers. And this is what we set out to do. And we published this work last year in Yes. And so the idea of this work, that we essentially developed a qualitative study with app search optimization workers. So for that, what we did, we recruited 18 workers from several crowdsourcing sites, also from Facebook groups. So yes, there are Facebook groups dedicated to app search optimization. And we only recruited workers who claim to control at least 100 accounts, to have 1 year of experience, and to have worked on at least 100 jobs before. We conducted our interviews over Skype, and we paid the participants $5 for each 15 minutes of their time. We performed...
Question, Bogdan.
Yep.
Quick question. So you can clearly you can tell if people are lying if that's an account that you created, but how can you verify whether they spoke the truth on something that you did not create?
Yes, so that's why we create accounts that we know they either created or they control, or we know that they do not control. And they don't know. If we show them 10, so in the questionnaire, in the previous one, let me go back to the slide. Right, in the questionnaire, we show them 10 profiles, right? So not just one, we show them 10. And
right.
So half of these were accounts that we discovered and we wanted to know the answer. And then 5 of them were accounts for which we knew the answer. So it's kind of a probabilistic approach. We do not know for sure, but if they did not lie to us on the accounts where we know the answer, we have a certain confidence that they are not trying to cheat us.
And if they lied, did you completely ignore their answers?
That's true, yes. If they lied, it was okay to answer, I don't remember, that was fine. But if they claimed to control or not to control an account that we knew the situation, falsely claimed, then we completely, in just one case, we discarded the whole data from the participant. So going back, so now we recruited workers, 18 workers, and we developed a structured interview. And we developed the interview consisted of 46 main questions, 72 follow-up questions, and it was about the capabilities, resources, behaviors, and fraud avoidance strategies of these workers. We did not ask them to post fake reviews or to perform any sort of app search optimization activities on Google Play, so we essentially did not break Google's terms of service. We learned from our past mistakes. So validate, okay, because one problem is that in this sort of interviews, workers could claim whatever they want. So we also needed some validation data, and we performed a quantitative study where we collected data from 39 other workers. And we asked each worker to reveal at least an account. They revealed between 15 to 86 accounts each for more than 1,100 accounts. We collected all the reviews, more than 21,000 reviews that they posted from these accounts for more than 6,000 apps. And then for these 6,000 apps targeted by these workers, we collected all the reviews, which is 218 million reviews. So going back to the qualitative interview, we followed the following life cycle. We studied several aspects of the fraud life cycle for these workers. And I will cover in the following, I will cover several of these aspects. I cannot cover all of them. I encourage you to ask questions if you have about any others, or just read the paper. One aspect that we investigated was how are the teams located. And so some of the participants said that they are physically collocated, that some of them actually even have brick and mortar offices where they work during the day. So this is a photo that one of the participants took of their in their office with their members. And this photo, we reproduced it here with permission from the participants. These guys here are hard at work posting fake reviews. Other workers claim to have strictly online teams ranging from 200 to 5,000 members and to use Facebook and WhatsApp to communicate. Others claim to be part of hybrid teams where part of the workers are collocated and others are online. And strikingly, there was one testimony from one participant who claimed to own a mobile device repair shop and to use the devices that he's supposed to repair to install apps and post fake reviews. We also asked them about their team structure. And so we discovered that some workers claim to be part of teams who share resources. So devices, user accounts, so they share passwords, and they all use these devices and accounts to post reviews and to install apps. And this is in contrast to other organic workers or workers who claim to be part of teams that also employ organic workers. And these are real users who use their own devices and accounts. They have one or two devices, one or two personal accounts. They mostly use these accounts and devices for personal activities. That every once in a while, they also post a bit of fraud from them. So these are a lot harder to detect because fraud is hidden among many personal and honest activities. In terms of structure, several participants claim to be part of teams that have a flat structure. So everyone performs the same type of job and they share duties, whereas others were part of hierarchical teams. For instance, some workers just post reviews, others create accounts, others are team administrators who split the job among certain workers that they control, others are job managers who communicate with clients and negotiate the terms of the contract.
So
we also asked them, yes.
Question. In this Venn diagram, many cells are empty. What is the explanation of that here? Why is it empty?
I'm not sure what you mean. Which cell is empty?
This Venn diagram, many cells are empty.
Yes, I mean, this is the data that we have. So I'm not sure. So maybe you mean that we have some hierarchical organizations that do not have a physical presence.
Right. Those can,
right.
Yeah.
Yes. So I guess we only had 18 participants. So I guess if you collect, if you interact with many more, you could find also participants also in these categories, like hierarchical, organic, for instance.
I see. Okay. Oh, you have only 18 participants.
Yes. So this is a qualitative study. So this is not a quantitative study. We asked them, these were interviews with people, right?
I see.
So these are different from the ones from the 39 from which we collected accounts and we performed the quantitative analysis for verification purposes. But anyway, so we also asked them about profit sharing. How do they share the money? And some said that they receive a monthly salary. Others said that they receive a flat rate based on how many reviews they post. Others said that certain members of the team receive more money, for instance, job managers and team administrators, because they have more important duties. We also asked them, how do they create teams and how do they communicate? And so most of the participants said that they use Facebook groups and WhatsApp groups, and they invite other people to join, and sometimes they know these people, and oftentimes they vet new participants to make sure that they have the ability to perform the job. And then once they have these teams, they also use these tools to send jobs, like links to a Google Play app, and give them the conditions of the job, like how many reviews they are supposed to post each, how much money they get for each review, and so on. What I'm showing here is a table of the claims made by the 18 participants in terms of the members that their teams have, how many accounts they control, how many devices they claim to have access to. And so some of the numbers here sound a little bit inflated, but I can actually confirm that we have found groups of organic workers that indeed have tens of thousands of members. So while some of these numbers may be inflated, the order of magnitude does not strike us as being vastly exaggerated. We also asked them about the hardware, like what kind of devices do they have? And so we asked them what are the factors that determine which devices they have, and obviously price and the features and resources of these devices are important, but also the job specifications. This is kind of surprising. I will come back to this a bit later. Also, all the participants said to have between 13 to 1,000 devices. Some have their own devices like smartphones, even laptops that have emulators, running emulators of mobile devices. Others use online devices, which are the devices of remote participants, including the organic ones. We also asked them what happens if you receive a job for an app that is not compatible with your device. So some of them said that they outsource the job, that they have contacts who can perform all sorts of jobs. They outsource the job. Others say they buy the devices that they need to do if they see that this is the popular type of job that is well paid. And others straight up refuse the job. So we try to validate these claims of the hardware that these workers have. So remember that we have collected more than 21,000 fake reviews from 39 workers. So we were able to find a vulnerability in Google Play that allowed us to take any review in Google Play and find out from what device model was this review posted. So what we see here in this scatter plot, every dot is one review for which we were able to find out the device type. And the x-axis shows the price of the device from which the review was posted, and the price is in euros. And the y-axis shows the device age at, or device model age at the posting time when the review was posted. So we can indeed confirm that many of these fake reviews were posted from cheap devices, low-end devices, many of them being old. Also, many of them actually were mid-range devices, but surprisingly, we also found reviews posted from fairly high-end devices up to more than 600 euros. That were also quite new. And so we received a confirmation from the workers that we asked in the interviews, which claim that they need high-end devices to review virtual reality apps that require more resources.
Bogdan, did you gather any information as to how much they're getting paid? I mean, how, they're buying those expensive things to do some jobs? I mean, I was wondering, do you have any?
Definitely, yes.
It's out of the scope of your project, I understand, but out of curiosity.
No, definitely. So we asked them about that. And so it really depends on the type of job that you want. So how many reviews you have. So the more reviews you want, they may reduce the price in both. It also depends on what kind of account you need for the reviews and for how long do you want the review to take place. And we're going to see there are many details that you can specify in a job. And so if you need more, like for instance, if you need them to keep an app installed for many days after reviewing it, then you will have to pay more. But it's like standard, it's starting from $1 up to $10 per fake review.
Because I noticed that for your interview, you're paying them basically, what, $20 an hour, essentially, right? 15 minutes.
Yes.
So yes. That's very much higher than Mechanical Turks and stuff like that. So I was wondering.
Definitely, yes. So, but these guys, when they have jobs, these jobs are not cheap.
Yeah, okay.
So, and we didn't try to overwhelm them with money. So no, so this is not unusual, what we pay.
Okay.
So a topic that was really of interest to us was how do they evade detection? Because we tried ourselves to post reviews in Google Play for apps that we have installed on our own devices, and we try to write, real reviews, like describing our experience with these apps. And many of our reviews were filtered by Google. So Google is definitely overzealous. So we were curious, how do these guys manage to write so many reviews that are not filtered by Google? So one of the verifications that Google imposes is that once you create an account in Google, Google will ask you to specify a phone number. And so they will send you an SMS and containing a code, and they're supposed to enter the code to verify that you really control that account. And Google sugarcoats it and saying that, well, this is for your own benefit in case you lose your password or other things, right? Or two-factor authentication, so on. But in reality, they need these phone numbers to prevent people from creating fake accounts. So we asked these people, how do you verify, how do you validate your accounts with Google? And so some of them said that they use real phone numbers of the friends and family members. They call them up, they ask them, look, can you send me the SMS that you received? Because I use your phone number to create a new account. Some others said that they use personal SIM cards because we had a testimony from several participants that in Bangladesh you can buy, or you could buy, up to 20 SIM cards per person. So for teams that have many members, this adds up. Others say that they use phone number verification services. So they outsource this job. They pay other people to get a one-time code from their mobile device. One participant claimed to purchase accounts that are already validated. So these services are already provided by other workers. Another thing that we verified is one of the verifications or the techniques used by Google to prevent fraud is that you cannot write a review before you install an app. So this is so we asked participants whether you can post a review without performing an install. And we were very surprised to hear from some that yes, you can do it. And they explained, and we validated that this is indeed possible. So you can click on the install button of the app. And then as soon as the installation starts, you click the stop button. And the app is not installed on your device, but then it still counts as an installation with Google. We also asked them if they interact with the app before writing the review. So obviously they all said that yes, they interact with the app, some claiming that they try to open all the pages of the app before writing the reviews. We also asked them about retention installs. So you can purchase reviews where with the additional constraint that the workers have to keep the app installed for at least a number of days after posting the review. And so some of the workers explained to us that Google takes a certain interval, like 3 days, to verify a review. And if you remove an app before those 3 days pass, after writing the review, they will likely flag the review. So this explains why several participants claim that they offer packages where they keep the app installed for at least 3 days, some even up to 1 or 2 weeks. And of course, reviews like that will cost more because they consume more resources. Participants also volunteered information about their behavior using the upvote and downvote buttons. So essentially, every review in Google has these buttons, like the upvote and a downvote, and you can click them. You can kind of giving feedback whether the review was useful to you or not. And so what these workers do often is they use their multiple accounts that they control to upvote positive reviews received by the apps that they promote, including reviews that they did not write. And they also downvote negative reviews, which they try to push at the bottom of the list so people don't read the negative reviews. And maybe even Google filters those reviews if they receive a lot of downvotes. So essentially they are exploiting the defenses of Google or the mechanisms of Google to post better fraud. Another question we had for them was these single-use accounts. And we've seen these single-use accounts in Yelp, in Amazon, in many other peer opinion sites. So essentially these are accounts that are created and they only have one review posted. And so we asked participants if they actually ever use single-use accounts, and they said yes, they do. And they ask for more money to post such reviews, because in addition to posting a review, they also have to create an account just for it. So I was a little bit puzzled, because whenever I see a review posted from such an account, I always discard it because it doesn't sound like a genuine review. But they exploit the fact that Google doesn't have enough information. If you only post one review, Google doesn't have enough history of your behavior to determine if this is a fake or genuine review. So many times these reviews stick longer on Google. So yes, there are developers who ask for single-use accounts, reviews written from single-use accounts. We also asked them whether they ever posted reviews in bursts. And this is one major assumption made by many fraud detection works, including our own. So we asked them, and surprisingly, several participants said that that many buyers do not want the workers to post all the reviews in the same day or very quickly. They want a slow rate, like 2-3 reviews per day. And some even claim that if the reviewer wants many reviews in a day, they will warn them that if they post more than a certain number of reviews per day, it's likely that Google will consider this to be a fraud. And some participants also mentioned that the number of reviews that you should post per day for an app should be a function of how popular the app is, of how many installs and how many reviews the app has. If the app has only a few installs and reviews, you should only post 2-3 reviews per day. But if it already has many reviews, then you can post more. And they even claim that they do this. Sometimes they take these packages where they promote an app for months, and at the beginning, they start by posting just a few reviews per day. But then as the app becomes more popular, they start ramping up also the number of reviews that they post. And we actually validated this claim. We looked at the 1,100 accounts that we know are controlled by workers and the 21,000 reviews. And so we plotted for each worker, each point on this graph shows for how long was the worker active on a certain app. Like when was the date of the first and of the last review posted by accounts controlled by this worker for an app. So we found many instances where workers were posting reviews over more than 1 year for certain venues, sometimes even more than 3 years. So essentially we conclude that some workers have developed defenses, so they no longer post reviews in bursts, but they extend the campaign length. So if you buy, let's say, 100 reviews, they will post them in a month. But you can also buy maintenance services, where maintenance meaning they will guarantee that the average rating of your app will not go below a certain threshold. So if you want your app to have a 4-star rating, they can ensure that, and you can buy packages for several months, as one of the participants claimed. So we also asked them when they post, whether they have worked on jobs where they were supposed to promote apps that were recently released. And this is another major assumption made by many works, like much of the related work. And so several participants confirmed that this has happened several times. And here we plotted the data from our quantitative analysis and from the 21,000 reviews. And so we noticed that 50% of the reviews from the fake reviews were posted within 3 months of the app release date. So kind of confirming what they said. We also asked them questions about the text of the reviews. And several participants surprisingly claimed that they prefer to receive the reviews from the developers. And so many times developers do send the text of the reviews that they want to post. But if they don't do that, then they have a review data set themselves and they cut and paste reviews from that data set and sometimes modifying them. We also asked them how long are the reviews that they write. And we knew beforehand that many of the fake reviews are quite short, but they explained in a twisted way why they write short reviews. And the explanation was that if you're posting a review from a mobile device, Google knows that you're using a mobile device to write a review. So they will be suspicious if you're writing a really long review from a small mobile device. So that's why they post short reviews. So we validated this data with our data set of 21,000 reviews, more than 21,000. And here we have the cumulative distribution function. So the x-axis shows the number of words, and the y-axis, the percentage of reviews that have up to that number of words. So indeed, we see the green curve is for all the reviews. They are fairly short. And for instance, participant number 7 wrote very, very short reviews. But we also had participants who wrote fairly long reviews. Like if you look at the red line, this is for participant number 26, he wrote reviews that were up to 80 words long. So some workers are indeed better than others at writing good quality reviews. We also searched for exact review duplicates. So we found many words, many reviews that are very short and that appear many times. So this is kind of a diagram showing the popular one, like good, nice, love it, and so on. So to bring it close to a conclusion, I think I'm going over time, hopefully not. So we investigated several aspects of the fraud lifecycle. We also came up with vulnerabilities points that could be exploited by a site provider to make it harder to post fraud. I'm not going to go through all of these. One of them is, for instance, since we were able to infiltrate Facebook and WhatsApp groups, Google could also do the same thing, and they could also, so they could find out which apps are being promoted, and not only the apps that are being promoted, but also the times when fraud could start for these apps. This is valuable information. In conclusion, we performed in this work, we performed the first structured interviews with app search optimization workers. We found that workers are happy to cooperate given enough incentives. This is not considered illegal work or unethical work in their countries. We found many capabilities, behaviors, detection, avoidance strategies. And so a very important conclusion is that we found very diverse behaviors and strategies. So any research that makes restrictive assumptions about the behavior of workers will miss out on a lot of fraud. These workers are also flexible and resourceful. They are not afraid of new barriers put by Google. They are able to find vulnerabilities. They can reverse engineer how Google works and how they filter reviews. They can not only bypass these Google defenses, but they can even exploit these defenses to post better fraud. We also confirmed that organic fraud is an important problem, is an emerging problem. It is hard to detect because fraud is hidden among many regular activities of participants. So also for kind of a takeout for our PhD students, if there are any attending this talk, kind of a personal observation from this research, from many years working on this topic, is that research sometimes may look like a brick wall, like a dead end. And so what do you do when this happens? I guess in many occasions, well, you just turn away and you try to find something else to do. But sometimes if you look hard enough at the wall, you can find that this wall in itself is a stack of opportunities, of solutions. So, and you just have to find it in yourself, to find and exploit these opportunities. And you know, when people try to block your research, to threaten to sue you, you kind of know that you're onto something. At the end, I would like to also thank the contributors, the PhD students who have worked tirelessly over the past few years, and they really shaped this project. They performed most of the work here. So I'll start with Nestor, who recently graduated. He now is with MathWorks. Also Ruben, who is still at FIU. Hopefully we can convince him to stay a bit longer. Mizan, who also graduated a couple of years ago. He's now with Amazon. And also Ratul, who's with IBM for a few years. So any questions?
Yeah, I have two little questions from 3 or 4 slides ago. If you can go back, you talked about that it was not illegal behavior in their country and not unethical. Did you actually ask them about the ethics? I mean, illegal, okay. But
yes.
About the ethics, did you make a distinction, and what kind of ethics?
Yes. So we talked to them if there is any sort of social stigma for performing this kind of work.
Yeah.
And so they said that no, that actually just working with computers places you in a very nice social position.
Okay.
So any work with computers is considered reputable.
Okay, so then that was going to, you know, that relates to the other question when they say bypass or exploit the site defenses and vulnerabilities. That means, you know, what kind of degrees do they have? I mean, are they computer science folks and hackers, or, you know?
Yes,
what,
yes.
Yeah.
Right, yes.
And
so
then which countries? I mean, then I'm curious about which countries.
Right. So we did ask them about their backgrounds, and so we have the data. I don't have the exact breakdown now, but yes, some do have college degrees, and the fact is that not all of them need to have college degrees. You just need someone to figure out a way around the defense, and then all of them learn from that person. So this information is being shared freely, and so you just need one to figure out how to do it, and then everyone applies it. Yes. So I think I think many of these participants were from Bangladesh, and so we also focused on people from Bangladesh because we had one student who was from Bangladesh, and he could establish rapport during the interviews. So these are not regular, this is not an interview with the friendly Joe selling salami at the grocery store. These are interviews with people who sell you bad VPNs. So we needed an insider, someone who has information from the culture. So that's why we kind of restricted. I mean, obviously not all the workers are from Bangladesh, but we recruited mostly from Bangladesh because we needed to be able to speak the language and to establish rapport.
Right. On the other hand, if they think in other countries and there that it's good social status and there's no ethical problems, they would probably speak very freely. Did you feel that they would that the fact that you had an insider was really essential? I mean, because if they see no wrong whatsoever, then
yes, I'm pretty sure that it was a deciding factor for them to participate.
I see. Okay.
And that's why I guess not many people have done. I mean, no one has done this sort of work before.
Yeah.
Well, maybe because they didn't think of it, but also maybe they didn't have the right participants.
Yeah. Interviewer, you mean? Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
So Bogdan, actually 2 questions. First question is, first of all, this is pretty amazing research. I really enjoyed learning about
Thank
what you. My first question is about completeness, which is that you had a set of findings about how fraud or review fraud occurs for Google Play apps, right?
Yes.
What sort of confidence do you have that your findings are complete, as in these are a comprehensive set of operations that someone who's looking to commit fraud would have performed?
Right. So this is a very good question. And yes, we have no confidence. And actually, we are pretty confident that we do not have the entire space of capabilities and strategies. We tried to recruit people, and many people didn't want. I mean, we contacted many workers, and so only a few responded, unfortunately. So we don't know the reason why, but I assume that there are larger operations also that are not really open to talking to the outsiders. So yes, I'm pretty sure. I mean, one of the questions that we asked them, for instance, is whether they use any automated tools to help with fraud. And so we received a few positive responses, for instance, using tools to keep the accounts alive, because they have so many accounts, they cannot really log into all of them during their activities. So, so they have these tools to periodically go and log into these accounts, but not much more than that. I'm pretty sure that there must be organizations that are using tools to automate almost the entire process.
Okay. So
and we couldn't talk to them. So unfortunately, yes, I'm pretty confident that we missed important strategies out there.
Second question is, did you contact Google to report or share your findings? And
Yes,
any effort is ongoing inside Google?
Yes. So,
I
so
would expect that something is going on in there.
Yes. So we contacted Google, and so first of all, we reported the vulnerabilities found by the students. And so yes, we even got on the Hall of Fame for bug tracks, and because due to some of the vulnerabilities that we reported, we of course talked to people from Google even at conferences. They know about this work. They do not really want to talk about what goes on inside Google on this. So I'm not sure if they care about this work or not. They kind of opaque the whole thing. It's not as bad as Yelp. So I have to admit, it's not as bad as Yelp, but they are not forthcoming.
Okay, thank you.
So Bogdan, amazing work. I just have questions for you. So
okay.
It seems that better account validation for sure is the good approach in order to reduce this, the impact of fraud workers. But again, as you said, it seems fraud workers have significant freedom to bypass this account validation, right?
Right.
So my question is that what website should do these days that they are not doing right now in order to reduce the impact of these operations? For instance, Google, for everyone knows that is working on hate and harassment detection, fake news. So if they want to work something like this area, what is your suggestion, or how this problem can be more costly, at least for those fraud workers to go ahead and freely do these types of operations?
Yes, so this is an excellent question, and if I really had the good answer for this question, I would not be here. I would be a multimillionaire, unfortunately. Yeah, we had ideas. In one project we introduced the concept of puzzles. Whenever you post a review, you have to solve, your computer has to solve a puzzle in order for the review to show up, and so the higher the probability that the review is fake, the higher the difficulty of the computational puzzle. Not necessarily the brightest idea, but so yeah, we don't really have a good solution. I think no one really has, and this problem has been around for a while. These people are simply too agile, and so they can find new strategies. So it's hard to come up with a strategy that they will not be able to bypass. I wouldn't say impossible, but no one has solved this problem so far. Actually, I even came up with the hypothesis that it would actually perhaps be more productive for Google if they started working with this kind of workers, so collaborating with the workers instead of punishing them by removing the reviews. Even if they close their accounts, they're going to just open new accounts. They're going to buy new accounts. This is not a problem. They could try to find ways to engage these workers in other activities, maybe also paid activities, where they don't have to perform this sort of work anymore. Some of these people, some of these workers are really poor, and so they have to, many of the organic workers could be, regular people that just have a cell phone and try to get an extra buck per day, which could make for them a difference. So I think it's also a little bit unethical to prevent their activity. So I think engaging them in some way to improve the quality of Google could be an idea. Like they could use them to because these guys post fake reviews. So maybe they are better than regular people at detecting fake reviews. So maybe they could hire them as experts in fraud detection.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, I'm just giving up here ideas. If Google hires me, I'll definitely implement some of these.
Yeah, we can take one or two other questions. Any other questions?
I have one general one, like, so, you know, it's still, you've did a great job to show us how it's still an open problem. And there's this brick wall, which you found is not a brick, made of brick. So is there a next step? I mean, is your group going to continue? What's happening next?
Yeah, so we do have future research. We are looking at learning more from the organic workers. So it's kind of work in progress, but one idea is to design studies where we ask participants to install apps that we develop, and these apps would report to us some information about how these users use their devices and whether we find any differences between how an organic worker behaves and a regular honest user behaves, and maybe someone who uses their device solely for fraud. And then there's, you know, trying to look at other social networks, other perhaps other social networks. Yeah, just, you know, we just need money and students, and we're going to find many other problems here. There are a lot of problems also in Facebook, other sites. So yes, we have interest. Other
they should fund you. They should fund you.
Yes. If you know anyone inside these companies who are interested to hear from us, definitely let me know. We will share the money.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Keep that in mind. Go around. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. It's 3:10. Thank you, Bogdan, for your amazing work and the great talk. And let's thank the speaker. So my mic actually doesn't work. Let's thank the speaker.
Very much. Thank you.
Something missing here. No, thank you. It's very great.
Thank you. And anyone, if you have any questions, you know, beyond this talk, send me an email. I'll be happy to discuss more.
Okay.
Thanks, Bogdan. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.